Excuse me. All right. Start in just 2 minutes. See if anybody else wants to join in. What's up, Nick? All right, let's fucking do this. So it's no real surprise. Like I mentioned, yeah, over the course of the last couple of days, I was looking for cells to sort of line up for the way that I needed them to potentially get myself into these longer term cells. I wasn't able to get in exactly where I wanted to get in just because the move kind of started without me. So what I'm going to do is just kind of recap the position that I did take. So this is GU that I ended up taking my position on. And yeah, we'll just go over that super quickly. And that's basically it. So what I had seen is essentially we tapped into the original area where we had this bearish order flow sort of confirmed, pushing down, coming up, building liquidity, sweeping, and then immediately giving this sort of aggressive shift in order flow, which is typically, step one in kind of looking for that higher time frame to start punching in and being able to, give us potentially some really, really good sells. So how I built this out was we essentially get the, like I said, order flow shift, come up, fail to take the high, right? Which what this technically means for us is, especially after a sweep, is that typically this low is going to be weak, right? So we get the liquidation, we immediately get a shift in structure, as well as failed demand zone, shift in structure. So there was a lot of confluence building around this area being weak. So when you know that this is a weak level, you can start to look at the internal stuff and start to configure what it is that you need to see to be able to get involved. So what I had seen here was obviously we had some built up internal range liquidity that got cleared out. It reacted to this zone right here. Again, doesn't hold that much relevance. I'm not really looking to trade from these zones. I'm looking to get order flow sort of solidified in the direction that I'm looking to trade. So when that sort of happened for me, when I jumped on the charts this morning, was when we had liquidated this and then again broke down into that pro trend direction. We pushed back up, matched the high, and then continued to essentially move down. So as all of this is happening, we're looking at order flow realigning. Order flow switched to bearish when this sort of happened. So did structure, aligned with higher time frame intention. So when all these things sort of piece together like this, becomes a lot easier to look for continuation trade ideas. So what I had seen was essentially this morning, I think I jumped on, so I got into my trade around 6:30 or something around there at least. And what I looked at was, okay, we had demand that sort of got interacted with here. You can see that supply that started. So as this mitigation process continues, as order flow continues to shift in our pro trend direction, mitigation process becomes a lot easier to just get involved on the next unmitigated POI as we sort of shift, and you can just see every time we come in, we mitigate. So pro order flow moves all the way down, right? So now the idea is, okay, once we essentially tapped into this supply, so I'm just going to back this up to right around here and just talk about this a little bit further. So what I had seen is obviously the inside bar interacted with the little demand zone that we sort of had wedged in here, jumped down onto my 1 minute, and because we're now pro order flow and pro trend, what I had looked for was a little bit more of an aggressive entry. So if this is a 15-minute POI, we need to see a 1 minute change of character. So what I looked at for my change of character here was essentially a little bit more aggressive, sitting right here in this demand zone that rested right underneath this level. You can see the interaction between the high and the low. So all I really looked at was this as my change of character across here. pushing down into the low, and then I looked for some confirmations on the lower time frame. So jumping down into lower time frame stuff, I have it marked a little bit better so that you guys can kind of see it's a little bit more apparent on the 5 second, but essentially what we get is our sweep of liquidity. We push down. This is that 1 minute change of character that I was talking about. We get the interaction between supply and demand, pushes up, immediately breaks through. We have levels of liquidity to take from the market. This is actually a limit order just above here. And I think my stop loss was actually a little bit wider than this. But yeah, so all I really looked for was, okay, well, what's available to take into the POY and what's available to target, right? And you can just see the dissipation in price. We have all this stuff to target. We're aligned with order flow. We're aligned with structure. All of these confluences put together is what allows me to get into a very high probable reaction trade to be able to potentially take this into the 4 hour lows as well as the 15-minute lows. So what I ended up doing, because I kind of got in a little bit later than I would have liked to, ideally, if I would have been on the charts, I would have probably got in a lot sooner, but obviously that's just not the case. You can't win them all, but ultimately got involved across a liquidity grab. And then we had liquidity to, like I said, take as well as target. We had already swept into the POY. And that was basically my trade idea. So 1 for 1 this morning. And what I'm going to do is just talk a little bit about my targets. I'll give you a little bit of an idea of why I targeted the region I did. Like I said, because I got involved a little bit later in the game, all I really did was target the next, unmitigated demand level, just so that ultimately I'm not going to be forcing out holding trades longer than I need to, just given the fact that we could get a relatively strong reaction to the low, at least in the short term. So I just didn't want to put myself in a position where I wasn't banking profits. So what I did is typically what I would do is target underneath these lows right here. But yeah, again, just because I got in a little bit later than I ideally like to, all I did was target my full volume at this demand zone that rests right here, because I was expecting some form of a reaction to sort of form off of these levels, which is exactly what it did. And I'm happy I took profits where I did. Ultimately, this could break down out quite a bit further, but I wanted to make sure that I got paid. Just targeted essentially my liquid region, right, which is basically all across here. We got that internal range that falls into the deeper portions underneath liquidity. The next demand zone is sitting right here. So I just followed my plan to a T to make sure that I am securing profits as much as possible. Yeah, I mean, it's a great day. It's just, ideally, I would have liked to have gotten involved in here, possibly in here, possibly in here, to be able to hold this with a little bit more volume, full volume for a little bit longer. But I mean, it is what it is, man. It's a great trade nonetheless. It's a great liquidity play. We've just taken liquidity out of the market. We had tons to target. Order flow realigned for us. I mean, it's just really a textbook play in terms of, looking at pro trend, pro order flow, realigning with what it is that we're looking for in terms of higher time frame narrative, and let the fucking thing run. So super, super clean, easy setup. So that was the only trade that I took today. I did get a question about just Euro USD.
Before you switch, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, just 2 seconds here. This was the one on Instagram this morning. If you guys are, so you can check it out on IG, just some of the markups. I mean, we just kind of went through it in detail, so you guys can have obviously a little bit more of an idea of what I looked for. But yeah, anyways, okay, yeah, go ahead with your question. Who's speaking with me?
Yeah, it was Jeff. So you said you had your sweep here, you broke here.
Yep.
And you determined at this level that this was weak. What did you use or what demand did you use to determine that this was just not going to kind of do one of these? Or did you wait for this to break down before you said this is weak? I guess my question is, at what point on this chart are you
Did I establish that this was weak?
Yeah.
So my suspicion that this is weak is based off of order flow shifting and taking out several levels of demand throughout here. This is not a change of character. The change of character is happening to the downside, right?
Yeah.
So we're playing into higher time frame narrative, expecting this low to be weak based on the fact that it just took out all of this. It matched this low, created equals for us to then come down into deeper pricing, right?
Right. Okay. Because typically what I would be looking at, would I be looking for something like this to happen, then this to happen, and then for this to go. And at this point, we can assume it's weak, but because at this point, it could have just gone up also.
I mean, yeah, and again, like this was deemed weak, not just off of all of this stuff in here, right? This is deemed weak off of the entire narrative of the 4 hour, right?
Yeah.
Understanding that,
Yeah, I
like,
get that.
you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
like, could it have gone further? For sure. But I was willing to put money on the fact that this was, in fact, going to be weak, given the fact that this came up and did not take out this high after liquidating all of this, right? So if this comes down into here, liquidates, the idea is that should fuel this move, right?
Yeah, it's just because I got myself into a similar situation here,
Yep.
right? Where we took here, we took this low here, we failed to break here. And then here, I guess this is the middle anyway, but it's kind of a similar situation.
Yeah,
That's all.
I think I got caught up in some trades in here too, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, we're anticipating. You got to remember that you're going to get involved, not even necessarily with losses. You're going to get some promising reactions, but when you play into higher time frame narrative, you have to remember that sometimes it's just not going to work because we may have to take liquidity one last time. We might have to induce people on the wrong side of the market. Like there's all kinds of different things that can happen, right? And that's what I mean. So we can suspect that this was low. And in all fairness, when we had taken, like I had suspected that this low was weak as well, just given the fact that we had liquidated, come back down. And I thought the same thing was going to happen in here, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So
I just didn't know if there was a secret tip.
Well, there's no secret tip. It's like, again, it's more or less just building the story out to understand like what that next probable move in the market should be. And that's how you like would incorporate that higher time frame narrative, understanding that like, bearish order flow is in a line from here. We're looking to essentially trade in that premium of that leg. And once we got that aggressive order flow shift, it just shows that nothing's holding these demand levels. We get the reaction, we push up, we fail to take out the high, and we break a couple levels of demand along the way. That's usually what's going to start to entice me into the market a little bit further to be able to get involved.
And then on the next question is, you said once we're pro trend and we're just doing the mitigations. So typically I'm looking for sweeps on the 15-minute.
Yep.
You're not
well, I would not necessarily get involved with any of this. We still need to see some form of a sweep. So I think there was a take on a lower time frame in here, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just show you what that looks like.
It's just because your first
typically you're going to want to see sweeps. You're going to want to see something grab liquidity, right, and then start going down, because ultimately order flow still remains bearish, right?
Yes.
So we're just looking for that liquidation in price of some sort to get people thinking that this is long. Like, is this a reasonable place to go long from? Like, I mean, obviously we know that it's not, right? So ideally we'd like to see a nice push off of here, and then look for, again, just sort of like that same criteria to kind of build, look for the sweep of the sweep, and then get involved on order flow realignment, right?
Yeah, perfect.
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome. We're looking at EJ now. I was just dabbling. I saw that it was in a half decent area, and I was just kind of peeking around at it, to be honest with you. I saw that we had just ran this high very, very weakly. Yeah, I'm just curious to see how it plays out in here. I'm just kind of looking at a couple different things, and yeah, nothing framed up just yet, but yeah, I'm just having a peek and seeing. The only thing I don't like, I just looked on at least on E8 on my personal, I think it's a little bit better, but like it's a 7.7 pip spread, which is not a huge deal, but it's just one of those things where, like, yeah, typically you like to have a little bit tighter spread. But yeah, I'm definitely peeking around. I'm just looking at other pairs and seeing what makes sense to. I'm basically looking for pairs that are not directly correlated to EU and GU pricing. Obviously they move relatively similar, so because it's a USD pairing. So I'm just kind of dabbling with a couple other pairs just to see where they're sitting in market structure and all that kind of fun stuff. So Nick's going to give me shit right now. He wants me to go on to US 30, I'm sure, but maybe in due time. Maybe Nick will be a coach one day. Once he gets all this shit dialed in, maybe he'll be the US 30 guy. Who knows? But yeah, US 30 is clean. Hey, it is what it is, man. If it works for you, I've never really looked at it, never spent too much time on it. So maybe at some point I will. Who knows? Anyways, guys, that's it for today. Like I said, I didn't take trades on Euro US dollar, just given the fact that, I just didn't my GU is the one that I was setting up on. Like this is here's a really good example of that liquidation in price right here, coming back up, inducing people into buys. We could potentially look for criteria in here. Again, we're a little bit deep in the leg, so you got to be very careful as to like what you're looking for. We're reacting to the low, you know what I mean? So all kinds of different things to kind of pay attention to in here. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, this is that exact thing that you're looking for, is that liquidation, push down, and then potentially come back up and start taking this into the week low, right?
Yeah, I'm marking it up as we speak, but I have another question on this chart if you have 2 secs.
Yeah.
So we, oops, okay, so we break up here, and I guess this is kind of our range, and we're working off of this, this POI here. So when this happened here, I just saw this as a mitigation of this, and I actually took a sell from here. But my question is, am I actually counter order flow? And I think I am.
Taking sells off here, technically you're counter order flow, yes. Right, you're leaving from
what about here?
Yeah, you'd still be, so here you'd probably, like, give me a second here. Oops.
I'm not trying to stump you. I'm just trying
to. No, I'm just trying to sort it out too, right? It's all cool. I just want to see what. Okay, so up in here. So this, because we left from demand, we pushed up. We've liquidated here. We failed to close above. This would be a counter order flow move. And then as order flow starts to realign on our lower time frames, I would say that order flow is realigning for us in this level. Probably have a failed demand level in here. Yeah. This would be order flow realigning for us in here, right, on the lower time frame.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. Actually, I saw this demand here.
Yeah,
I saw this failure here.
Yep.
I saw this as the range, and I saw this as the mitigation of this.
Yep.
So anyway, but in terms of the, like, I'm trying to follow the flow chart. And
yeah.
Sometimes I'm getting myself mixed up with the different order flows.
Yeah. So I mean, anytime we leave from an area that could potentially prove to have a reaction, the idea behind it, if it's leaving from a relevant area, obviously we could run this high one last time, who knows? The theory behind it is to put basically an insurance policy on reacting to a demand zone, right? It's like, okay, if we react to this, we come up into here, we know that the higher time frame is obviously moving this way. We're expecting to obviously take out all this liquidity that we've been talking about for weeks now. The idea is that just be a little bit more conservative. So look for, if you have a 1 minute refined in here, we're going to look for a one minute realignment, or a 15-minute realignment off of a 15-minute zone.
Right. Okay. Perfect.
Makes sense?
Yeah. So that's basically what I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime that, like I said, if we're leaving from that opposing direction and there's a chance that we could potentially have liquidity above this high to push a little bit higher, just always assume counter order flow, right? And that way, you can assume pro order flow as well. But usually, yeah, you're going to want to at least see that 1 minute realign from like a 1 to 3 minute zone. And then, yeah, furthermore, confirm that with the seconds afterwards.
Perfect. Thank you.
Cool. No worries. Yeah, higher time frame liquidation is key. I couldn't agree more. It's always best to see some form of liquidity get taken. Man, LTT, like right here, LTT, order flow shift in the middle. Like, man, it's all you need to do is wait for this exact thing to happen every time. And it happens at every reversal in the market. And that's basically why the model is built the way it is because it's so easy to see how these things form, right? It's very easy to see how reversals form. I find it's very difficult to take continuation trades, to be honest with you. Cool. That's it. That's all. I'll get this uploaded for you guys shortly. Live trading session tomorrow, like I'd mentioned. We're just switching it up for this week just because I'm going to be taking off to Montreal on Thursday, and Friday is obviously a bank holiday for Canada Day. So just remember, nothing's going to be going on Friday. If you are unsure of what's going on during the week, always make sure to check the announcements channel just to make sure that you understand what is supposed to be happening. So that's it. That's all. I will get this uploaded for you guys shortly. Have a good rest of your day. Oh, Jeff, you live in Montreal. Beautiful. Maybe I'll have to hit you up, man.
Yeah. What are you coming for? Just for Canada Day?
So a couple different things. Yeah, shoot me a DM and I'll let you know what we're up to. How's that?
Okay, I'm out this weekend, but absolutely.
Okay.
We're only 2 hours apart.
Sounds good, man. Okay, we'll talk soon, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the live trading session.